Yo, gang, what's up? It's Trollbot.EXE, and welcome to Halloween special, where allow me to take over for once. Okay, I'll leave it to you. Okay, hello everyone. I will be your host for today, and I don't really feel like introducing myself, so I will give you a rundown of what we will be doing today. Today, I will be telling you a scary story, or as you would like to call it, a creepypasta. A little story called I Saved the World. There's obviously going to be a twist to it. So, shall we begin? You have to listen to me. This isn't right. You can't do this. You can't let this happen. Okay, hold on. Let me try again. Something different this time. Calmer. Explain what's happening. Okay, my name is Nick, and as of right now, I am the last person on Earth. They called them quiet rooms. After the wave came, the remaining cities around the globe pulled together to gather the remaining resources in highly defensible areas. They called them hub cities, and the wealthiest of society lived closest to the hub, and thus have their pick of the Earth's remaining resources. This, of course, did not last long. 10 years of feeding the lower southern United States nothing but rice and potatoes saw to it that the class system came to an end in messy fashion. After the collapse of society, there was a great ravaging, and for a while it seemed as if we would eat ourselves to death, or worse, cannibalize each other. But then, under new leadership, we began consolidating. From the perspective of our leadership, not all mouths were worth the food they would eat. It began with those in prisons. First, those on death row, followed by the mentally insane. Those serving life came next, and not long after, simply committing a crime worthy of jail time all but assured your consolidation. This is when the quiet rooms came in. No one knows when the law was passed or who made the final decision, but suddenly, underground facilities began materializing in all major cities and in every little town. And after several years of quiet construction, small garage-sized buildings began to crop up wherever the construction had ended. Some families received enlistment papers, the necessary draft, they called it. We always joked later and called it what it really was, a necessary evil. That was until my papers came, and I became the delivery man. Our job was simple. Wait for orders to arrive, and retrieve someone identified for scheduled consolidation, and take them to a quiet room. To resist these orders and the lawful determination of the remaining world's courts was a jailable offense, ultimately leading to immediate consolidation. The first week was the worst. Every morning I put on my uniform, holstered my regulation bolas, and patrolled the borders of our small town until I was relieved from my post. The times always changed, the hours were inconsistent, and I spent every waking minute wondering, praying, and hoping that I wouldn't get the call. And I didn't. Not for a long time. In the meantime, I continued to enjoy the hefty government check I received every month. I took pleasure in my ability to purchase groceries for my family or new clothes for my daughter, without the worry of budgeting. I enjoyed the peace it instilled in me, and soon I became complacent, even trusting of my government. I trusted that the only people being taken were those who truly did not deserve to stay. It had gone months without ever making me respond to a single order for retrieval. Maybe it would never come, I imagined. If it did, well, maybe it was for good reason. And then the day came when I retrieved my first call, my first order for retrieval. I went to a home one I didn't recognize, and perhaps stupidly knocked on the door. People poured out of their homes at the sight of me, not approaching, rather, well, watching in terror, disgust, and oddly enough, curiosity. No one knew what to expect, as none of us had ever witnessed this happen before, myself included. And then the door opened and I saw my package. An older man, hard in the face, with an intense stare, and a jagged set of knuckles wrapped around the side to his entryway, steadying himself to look at me. He was old, but strong, and he looked ready, poised to strike, but he didn't. He just looked at me and said, "Well, I suppose that's it then. I'm to go." I swallowed what little courage I had available and did my best to relax my vocal cords to say, in what I had hoped would be a determined voice, "Yes, unfortunately. I believe you are to come with me immediately, sir." I stammered towards the end, still feeling like some respect was owed, at the very least. I watched his face as he processed the information I just laid at his feet, then glanced at the people surrounding us. At that moment, I believe both he and I realized that no one was willing to stop us. They all stood by and watched. They knew what I was here to do, and that this was necessary, and that the remaining courts had their reasons. I held out my hand and directed the man to come outside of his home, and he followed suit. After a brief moment of hesitation, he didn't bother to look behind him and even close his door as we walked side by side. Down the steps of his porch, we walked in silence for some time through throngs of people, none of them doing anything to stop me or him. Parents running into their homes with their children, others letting them watch, pointing as they told their children what fates could be if they didn't behave and watch behind their ears like mommy said. And I, in a strange way, felt proud of the example I was setting. Horrified, surely, but still hopeful that there was a reason this man did not deserve to live. And I writhed in those emotions for the duration before a walk to the quiet room, until finally we arrived at that small building just on the outside of the town. The old man paused then. Now fear was clearly present in his mind. He looked at me in desperation and said, almost pleading, "Why me? What did I do?" I was perplexed. I assumed he would know, or at least have some idea. When he saw I had no clue, he looked horribly sad and said, "I just don't get it. I know my medications, they're expensive, but I always pay for them. I need them to help me sleep. The things I've done for this country, the people I've hurt in other parts of the world, all in the name of my home, I never enjoyed them. They stayed with me, even when everyone else left me. So why? Why me? Why not you? Or anyone else? What did I do?" He yelled, and people began to walk over to get a better look. The old man was riling them up, getting them excited as he began to lose control of his composure. He began to look out at them as he spoke now, saying, "You can't let this happen. This isn't right. Who decides who goes?" I started to shake. I knew what was about to happen. I knew what was coming if I didn't stop from inciting a riot. I knew what awaited everyone in this town if they tried to fight the system put in place. And to my family, stop resisting or I will be forced to use force, I stammered out. At this, the old man did not back away, and instead took a step closer before I screamed, "Are you really going to be this selfish? Can you really not see how dangerous this is for everyone here? What do you think happens to them if you don't go? Or what might happen to me and my family if I don't deliver you? Did you ever think that maybe you need to go so the rest of us can stay?" And at that moment, everyone stopped, including the old man. When he saw that he had lost them, he looked down in a deep, hollow sadness and turned again towards the doors of the quiet room. We walked slowly together to the doors, where he and I scanned our IDs until the doors opened and revealed a small, completely bare chamber with no windows, doors, or otherwise defining features. A negative space filled with darkness and blank walls and floors. The old man looked at me and I at him. We were both terrified. But then he began to walk forward, almost at his own surprise. He stopped in the center of the small chamber and just stared back at me. Nothing happened as we stared at each other. A hole did not open up into the bottomless pit of the earth, and gas did not begin to flood the chamber. Nothing happened until, finally, I began to close the door. The old man's eyes widened, but he did not stop me. Instead, he stood, watching me. As I closed the door, the last thing I remember seeing was his one eye, staring back at me in the darkness. One steely gray eye. And then the doors were closed and I went home. Nothing else, no more pomp and circumstance. The checks kept coming and eventually started getting larger, and I kept patrolling. And that's the end of part 1 of I Saved the World. Back to you, Trollbot. Well, that was part 1. Hopefully you're excited for part 2 of this mini-series. Yeah, this ended up taking a lot longer than I expected. So, in the meantime, later fools, and happy Halloween from us both. Yeah, happy Halloween.